The village of Dalton is more than $3.5 million in the hole. Mayor Tiffany Henyard is accused of misusing money, and today she's nowhere to be found.
I've never seen any municipality have so many credit cards out there. Orders going out to each is mind-boggling.
When you don't answer questions, there's something to hide.
No, Madam Supervisor, we are not brainwashed. We are fed up.
In a stunning turn of events, one of Tiffany Henyard's former trusted assistants has come forward to reveal the depths of Henyard's corruption and dubious dealings, shedding light on a web of unethical behavior that has shocked the community. Despite Henyard's seemingly carefree attitude, it is evident that panic is setting in as more and more people turn against her. Henyard was once the powerful mayor of Dalton when her political empire began to fall apart. Leaving her behind, the drama surrounding Henyard's demise is developing at breakneck pace, and new information keeps coming to light that only makes her mounting problems worse. The most recent development came from an unexpected the original Carmen Carlisle. In an unexpected move, a trustee on the Thon Township Board, who had been seen as one of Henyard's closest allies, Carlisle publicly accused the 41-year-old mayor of unethical behavior and predatory tactics meant to increase her own influence. Henyard claimed to have been manipulating residents, employees, and vendors during her tenure, all the while fabricating a false sense of success that was financed by taxpayers' hard-earned money. Henyard was already under fire for her extravagant spending and dubious financial practices, so it appears that even the self-described super mayor couldn't avoid this one. In her public statement, Carly explained that she had been silent about Henyard's extravagant trips and dubious spending for years, but she felt compelled to speak out after seeing a pattern of behavior that she could no longer ignore. "I'm standing up not for myself, but for others who have been harmed by what I see as Henyard's leadership," Carly said. Carlisle's silence in the past may have raised eyebrows, but it is understandable given the power she held over the township with a firm hold on local law enforcement and her apparent ability to silence anyone who dared to speak out. However, as the walls started to close in, Carlisle could no longer remain silent, and her decision to come forward set off a chain of events that would shake Dalton to its core. Unsurprisingly, Henyard did not take this betrayal lying down. Instead, she retaliated by lashing out with a new moniker and attempting to place the responsibility elsewhere. Henyard's statement was a classic deflection, accusing everyone but herself of being responsible for the current catastrophe. "I believe I'm going to give you a new moniker." The line seemingly frustrated. Carlisle Henyard said, "You were on this board, and we never talked about this. You shouldn't have put the same energy into play when you weren't saying a word a year ago." Her comments seemed to suggest that Carlisle knew more than she was letting on and that she shouldn't have spoken up sooner. But Hen's attempt to discredit Carlisle backfired when the TRU responded with the stark truth, which is why I didn't ask questions, was because I had faith in the administration, as Carlisle indicated, but I began to doubt the process as soon as I lost faith in it. Carlisle continued by narrating a crucial incident in which Henyard had misrepresented a foundation she had been involved with and even came to her house to coerce her into lying about the foundation's beginnings. It was evident that Carlisle had had enough of remaining in the background and was prepared to reveal Henyard's unethical behavior to the public, but she wasn't the only one who had grown impatient. For months, Trustee Chris Gonzalez had been sounding the alarm on Henyard's financial malfeasance. Constantly requesting financial information and responses to his expanding set of inquiries, he pressed for a special meeting to discuss the mayor's dubious spending after his courteous requests were turned down. The August 15th board meeting felt more like an intervention than a typical board meeting, with a long agenda full of topics pertaining to Henyard's alleged financial misconduct. The board was also ready to introduce 6 new ordinances to stop Henyard's unbridled spending, in addition to discussing dubious payments and mysterious invoices. These precautions included limitations on travel, pay reductions, tougher credit monitoring, and harsher budget oversight, card regulations, and a prohibition against utilizing township assets for self-promotion. Gonzalez's decision to nominate Henyard for a critical position seemed out of place given the tense atmosphere, but it turned out that Henyard had applied for this position some time ago, and the nomination came just minutes before the midnight deadline when the board was at a standstill. The message was clear: Hen's reign was coming to an end, and the board was determined to put an end to her financial free-for-all. Thought that the best way to end the impasse and force the board to decide was to nominate Henyard. Many in the room were shocked by this unexpected turn of events before time ran out, and some later theorized that Gonzalez wanted to bring the board together and make sure the appointment was made quickly, even if it meant reluctantly nominating Henyard. In the end, the board voted in favor of Henyard's appointment, but this last-minute nomination only served to highlight the deep divisions within the township and the mounting pressure on Henyard as her once unwavering hold on power continued to erode. The drama started with old supporters like Corral and Gonzalez speaking out against her. It became more and more obvious that Yar's tenure as mayor was quickly coming to an end. Her political career was on the decline, and it appeared that the full scope of her alleged corruption would soon be made public.
You've been voted the Thornton Township Supervisor. How do you feel right now?
Oh man, I'm overjoyed. I didn't see it coming. I love it. That means that I am truly blessed and everyone loves me. I love them.
Many Dalton locals are certain that the Board of Trustees had a secret agenda when they decided to nominate Tiffany Henyard. Some people thought the trustees were more interested in keeping the issue out of the public eye out of concern for the potential backlash that would result from an open decision-making process. However, the effects of trustee Chris Gonzalez's hasty nomination of Henya were felt throughout the entire village, as the choice only intensified the unrest surrounding the mayor's office. Naturally, the town's residents were incensed. One resident discussing the impact of Henyard's actions expressed outrage over the situation, saying, "I'm devastated that this woman came into our town and wasted all of our tax dollars. I've suspected it all along." They stated, adding, "Because of her corruption, we have senior citizens who can't even afford the basic necessities." Despite the potential covert intentions of Gonzalez and Trust, Tiffany has to be put in jail and held as an example so that people realize she cannot simply spend our money in this way. This job entails responsibilities, not a cash register. The general consensus in Dalton, according to Carmen Carlisle, was that Henyard should be fired because the neighborhood was already suffering from Henyard's alleged financial malfeasance, which had reached a breaking point, and while he was trying to keep things under control, pressure was coming from all sides. Henyard tried to push through an important agenda item during the meeting. Asked the finance department for backup invoices. Gonzalez was determined not to let her brush the matter under the rug because he had witnessed firsthand how Henyard had attempted to hide her tracks, particularly after the dismissal of Keith Freeman, a former aide who had the guts to expose the dubious spending that Henyard appeared desperate to conceal. Gonzalez was not duped by Henyard's actions in July when she replaced Freeman with Keith Price, a loyal ally, without requesting board approval. This move was widely perceived as an attempt to strengthen her control over the township's finances by putting a reliable insider in charge. But Gonzalez pointed out that Price had no right to handle sensitive financial documents without the necessary authorization. Henyard, however, insisted that Price's appointment did not need board approval and even attempted to persuade everyone that it had been approved all along despite the absence of formal procedure. As the meeting went on, it became evident that Gonzalez was not going to allow Henyard to continue manipulating the situation when Henyard called for a vote on the invoices, obviously hoping to bulldoze. The motion caused the tide to turn against her trustees. Jerry Jones, although she resisted, Henyard lost this round, indicating a change in the balance of power and a growing recognition among her once loyal allies that they could no longer support her actions. Chris Gonzalez and Carmen Carly voted in favor of obtaining the invoices, while Henyard was the only trustee to vote no. The villagers are closely watching to see if the tide will completely turn in their favor, but the tension in the township is still evident, and the struggle for control over Dalton is far from over as Henyard tries to maintain her position. For the board members who supported the motion, It was a significant step towards revealing the truth about Henyard's financial dealings, or if this tempest can somehow be weathered by the once-feared mayor.
All right, is there a second? Second. The motion second. Call roll. Wait, for the record, again, get it from Kate Price.
In an attempt to regain control of the situation, Tiffany Henyard is calling for a special Thoron Township Board meeting in an attempt to change recent ordinances that have stopped her unrestrained spending. When none of the 4 township trustees appeared, Henyard reacted angrily, claiming that these measures were preventing the township from providing essential services to senior citizens and children. I'm going to discuss a few topics. There will be no interruptions or comments, just me explaining what's happening. And if you wish to leave, you are free to do so. I don't want to hear that, and the door is there. Henyard said, "You thought this was just a way to stop Tiffany Henyard, but it's really about stopping the services here in Thoron Township." It was obvious that she didn't want any more scrutiny of her financial practices, which had already been called into question. But trustee Chris Gonzalez wasn't it. Henyard went on to lament that the township couldn't even provide basic supplies like gift cards for bingo games or ice cream for a senior event. Documents the goal was to guarantee accountability. The board imposed stringent new regulations that required all expenses to be pre-approved, which was a serious blow to Henyard's careless spending style and made things worse for Henyard. Henyard had hoped to avoid the ordinance requiring backup invoices, but Gonzalez stood her ground. The board also decided that event budgets have to be approved before any funds could be spent, which further limited her authority to operate independently. As a result, Henyard had to rush to acquire clearance on a number of events, such as a Friends of Tiffany Henyard picnic, which was ironically named after her own campaign fundraising committee. Even though it seemed like Henyard's extravagant spending was getting to her, she wasn't prepared to back down. She attempted to defend her actions by asking, "Do I not still provide for you residents? Do I not have the picnic now because the board didn't come and vote for a picnic that we have every single year like clockwork?" But Gonzalez swiftly shot that down, reminding Henyard that the true problem was her repeated failure. To give community needs top priority. I am certain that the supervisor will keep making it appear as though there is a crisis. But if you are going to make those decisions and choose to spend money on other things rather than caring for the children, that is precisely why we are in this predicament. As Henyard's political career continues to take a nosedive, Gonzalez noted that the scandal surrounding a $200,000 payout to Oak Construction Co., a company with more red flags than a communist parade, is more significant than her extravagant lifestyle. The hefty sum was purportedly for roof replacements and windows for elderly households, but there was a significant catch. Without any firm agreements or competitive bids, the Oak owner's contract was awarded. For bribing a Cook County assessor to obtain property tax relief, Alex Neob is already facing imprisonment, but the company's ties never end there. The Nytops family is linked to a house restoration scam and has a lengthy history of tax cheating schemes. Disgrace surrounding a former alderman carries it's evident that Austin is under a lot of scrutiny because of her affiliation with such a dubious organization, even as she continues to deny any wrongdoing. The consequences of this transaction is significant because it directs contracts to a business with such dubious credentials. Henyard might have put Dalton's senior citizens' welfare in danger in addition to indulgently spending money. Now that federal investigators are actively working to understand the complexities of this case, Henyard's meticulously constructed public image is starting to fall apart. What started out as an intricate soap opera has evolved into a high-stakes, shockingly complex real-life drama. As another of Hen's associates is implicated, the scandal grows. Liz Lacey, the former Dalton deputy police chief, encounters significant legal issues. There is a 9C count for Lacey, federal indictment for perjury, bankruptcy fraud, and false statement. According to the Northern District of Illinois U.S. Attorney's Office, it appears that Lacey may have been trying out for a part in a crime drama. But this case is all too real. According to federal authorities, Lacey went to great lengths to hide his wealth even feigning to be divorced from his spouse in order to evade his financial obligations, and as the web of corruption expands, Henyard's role in defending Lacey has drawn criticism. Lacey was one of her most outspoken supporters during the scandals that beset the Henyard administration, and it seems that the troubled May was more than happy to watch his back. Both Henyard and Lacey have been accused of using police raids as a weapon to further their own agendas and have been connected to the misappropriation of taxpayer funds for extravagant luxuries. Their actions appear to have involved more than just financial mismanagement. They involved the exploitation of public resources for private benefit, as evidenced by federal investigations into. The drama surrounding her reign is far from over, but it's clear that both Henyard's and Lacey's actions are now in full swing, and that it will only be a matter of time before the full extent of their alleged corruption is exposed. Henyard's fall from grace is getting more dramatic by the day, and as the stakes rise, the people of Dothan are left wondering just how far this corruption goes and whether Henyard will be held accountable for her actions.
Tiffany Henyard to be indicted on federal bankruptcy fraud. And the lawyer tonight for Deputy Chief Louis Lacey tells me this is all part of prosecutors' strategy to get them to turn on Henyard.
Let's face it, when you're this deeply involved in your own misconduct, the I'm a victim defense doesn't hold water. It appears that Lacey's counsel is trying to paint this whole situation as part of some grand plan to bring down Henyard, insisting that his client is innocent and that the feds are merely pursuing him in order to establish a case against Henyard. Lacey's lawyer is still. It's obvious that the walls are closing in on Lacey and Henyard as he faces the prospect of up to 45 years in prison if found guilty. The indictment presents a damning picture, claiming that Lacey declared bankruptcy in 2019 after a plaintiff tried to enforce a settlement agreement in which Lacey allegedly still owed $443,000 of it. After receiving a $555,000 settlement, Lacey chose to file for bankruptcy once more in 2020. According to the charges, Lacey not only twisted the truth but also shattered it. He is accused of fabricating statements, hiding bank accounts, and even lying about being divorced from his spouse in order to hide income and avoid financial obligations. The way Lacey acts is just as dishonest as Henyard's. It's no surprise that he has remained so devoted to the troubled mayor. Residents are also speaking out as a 23-year-old South Holland resident recently criticized Henyard for her corruption and urged township leaders to promote civic engagement by acting in good faith, including by making information about Henyard's actions more easily accessible. You claim that you want us to be civically engaged to attend these meetings, but based on my initial encounter with Thoron Township, it appears that the measures being implemented are hurting the township's residents, they said. In response to Henyard's remarks regarding voters rejecting a mental health referendum that would have increased taxes in Thoron Township, another resident, Hugh Watts, retorted saying, "We are not brainwashed. We are fed up with everyone." That doesn't stop there. We don't trust you to solve it, but we don't think mental health is essential. Henyard is currently facing numerous lawsuits. In one, she's named alongside Dalton Village trustee Andrew Holmes in a lawsuit brought by a Dalton police officer who was a member of the Henyard security detail and a former mayor's employee. In another, Dalton officials are accused of unjustly refusing a barber a business license. Then there is the lawsuit that Dwayne Thrash, a former maintenance manager in Dalton, filed, which has shocked the town. Thrash says that in 2023, some of his closest friends approached him with a shady plan to replace the school board's lawyer with a law firm of their choosing. When Thrash refused to follow the plan, things quickly went south, and he was fired while on an authorized leave of absence with the justification of poor work performance and insubordination allegations, which he insists are wholly untrue. According to the lawsuit, the city must pay him damages for his unlawful termination and expunge the poor work performance statement from his files. Henyard is accused of numerous infractions in the lawsuit, including violating the First and 14th Amendments. Conflicts arising, it's mind-blowing that the state hasn't stepped in to take control of the city and township. One resident said, "None of this is normal, And the state of Illinois should be ashamed at this point. Both fans and locals are calling for the state to step in and remove Henyard from her position. The people of Dalton are demanding responsibility as her corruption story continues to unfold. And it's difficult to see how she can continue to hold on for much longer. Can the state intervene and put a stop to this political play? Or can Henyard continue to avoid the consequences? Only time will tell. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon. Goodbye. Until we meet again, thanks for watching Visual Vortex.